if he tries taking my emotional support dog. I have pretty bad PTSD, and I also have a tic disorder along with anxiety, so me plus people don't work out. My dog is completely trained and is meant for panic attacks, may I add. So I'm walking through the mall with my large lab mix named Tiger. He has his vest on, which clearly states he is a service dog. He was walking in our normal position, him on my right, slightly behind, so he can watch me. He doesn't mind kids, so if I'm having a good day, I will have him sit and let little kids play with him. I go to the mall quite a lot, so I see the same kids often, and I've honestly bonded with a few of the families. Enter the entitled mother. I don't remember ever talking to her, so when she walked right up to me, I was quite confused. I wasn't having a very good day, so while I was standing doing I don't know what, Tiger was laying between my legs or doing slow circles, because that makes me feel safe. "Excuse me, may my son pet your dog?" she says in a Karen voice, you know what I mean. "I'm sorry, but he's a service dog and is on duty, so he can't be pet right now," or something like that. I said this in my sweet dealing with children voice because I didn't want to seem like arrogant or anything. I went back to doing whatever I was doing. Tiger puts his paws on my thigh when something's wrong, and I immediately look down. The small child, probably like 4 to 6, was petting him. "Excuse, can you tell your son to not touch my dog?" I again used a polite voice. "Why, I've seen you let other children pet your dog," she snapped at me. I could feel the panic attack building up. I started shaking slightly, but was able to calm myself pretty fast. "Mommy, can I have the doggy?" My head snapped toward the child, who was tugging at the leash and vest. "Of course, honey. How much for the dog?" He's not for sale. As I said, he's a service dog and is trained specifically by me for me. He was only partially trained when we adopted me, and I finished his training. So my son needs a service dog. He's clearly blind and autistic. In my brain, hold up, that doesn't add up. Ma'am, if he did need one, you would have to have a dog trained specially for him, because my dog is trained for PTSD. She grabbed his son and walked off. I thought that was the end of it and walked to the food court. I sat with my pretzel and went through some schoolwork, I think. After a couple minutes, I heard the same annoying Karen voice. "Okay, his son's name?" So distracted lady. I was confused, but for some reason went back to what I was doing. "Excuse me, miss." "Yes, what kind of doggy do you have?" Well, he's a lab." I didn't know what to say, because what should I say? He's like 6. Out of nowhere, I hear Tiger yelp and immediately look to where he was sat. And there was Karen holding his lead with one hand and his vest with the other. He was now about 3 feet away from me, so he was clearly uncomfortable. "Give me my dog." I was definitely way too calm for the situation I was in. "He's my dog. Someone call the police. This crazy lady is trying to take my service dog." I was shaking and breathing heavy because one of my major triggers is people yelling. I was seriously pissed. Not only did she steal my dog from me, but then she called me crazy. If you have any mental illness, you probably understand how dehumanizing being called crazy feels. "Ma'am, give me my dog." "Do you even know his name?" I'm still shaking and somehow managed to keep a stable and firm voice. "This is my dog, Ginger." Tiger didn't even move when he heard that he was still standing there being manhandled by that nutjob. I whistled because that's what I usually used to call him. "Tiger, come." He pulls hard on her to get to me and dragged her to the ground. She looked like she was about to explode. He sat between my legs again, and I grabbed his lead. "See my dog?" She pulls herself up and dragged my dog back to her again, smacking my arm in the process. She'd right where one of my worst scars are, and at that point I lost all composure. "Give me my fucking dog." I didn't care about being kind anymore. She didn't budge. "It's my fucking dog. I'm calling the police." Enter Tyler and Sarah, a sweet younger couple who me and my family know quite well. On my name, who is that woman holding Tiger, a psycho bitch that stole my dog. I was shaking hard and was on the verge of tears because you know PTSD. Sarah walked over and worked on trying to calm me down while Tyler was dealing with Thunder Bitch. "Give her the dog back before I have to do something I will regret." Fun fact, Tyler's in the Army. "Don't touch me. You'll call my husband. He's a lieutenant. Worried because I'm first lieutenant, last name at Army base near here." She completely stopped talking, handed over the dog, grabbed her poor son, and booked it out of here. Sadly, there is no happy ending really, but if anything changes, I'll take y'all. BTW, I took Tyler and Sarah out for ice cream after that incident. I no longer leave Tiger's lead laying around if I'm not holding it.
Entitled Dad Impatiently Demands Parking Spot Gets Instant Karma. I remembered this story a few years back while going on a job interview in a popular downtown area. I saw a similar story like this and felt this belongs here. So just to preface, this is a very busy downtown area and parking is far and few. I happened to find a prime parking spot on arguably the busiest street in that area. I was walking back from an interview, and just as I go to open my car door to get in, a very flustered, middle-aged man pulls around the corner with what I'm assuming are his kids, and the interaction goes as such. "Dear entitled Dad, are you going to be moving soon?" "Yes, I'm just about to leave now. You are welcome to spot." "Eddie, can you get a move on? My kids are going to be late." Be shocked at how rude he was, sir. It will just be a moment as I need to plug in directions. "Dear, that's not my problem. You can pull over in the next street and do that since you move like a sloth." At this point, I don't engage further because this idiot is not worth getting angry over. So I take my sweet time plugging in my GPS to get home while he's yelling incoherent phrases at my window. And the most delicious part of this whole story is when I pull off. A drunk Karen whips around the corner, hits a car, and a cop who was closely behind angrily directs her to that spot before the guy could even pull in, and he loses it. I'm driving away at this point and look back at the cop dealing with these two losers, while I'm laughing all the way home thinking about if this guy wasn't such an entitled jerk, he'd probably have that spot. TLDR, entitled Dad impatiently demands parking spot to have it taken by a police officer pursuing a drunk driver. Edit formatting punctuation. Also thank you for all the upvotes and support. This community rocks.
Final update. My friend's mom tried to take my iPad because my art is inappropriate. I just want to say thank you for everyone who recommend police interaction and for those who've been treating me with nothing but kindness. There has been a bit of hate, but the mass amounts of kindness make this situation a little better. I sat down with my mom last night and I put my dad on a Zoom call. After explaining the situation, I just flat out asked. There were a lot of different opinions that were thrown out in the comments about how to ask. And at this time I forgot every single one and blurted it out. My mom told me she wasn't surprised, and my dad said that he didn't have a problem with it. My mom wasn't as easy to convince because she believed having Ace stay with us would bring Karen around for more drama. It was a long talk, and she told me she could still stay for a while, but to live with us is a completely different story. In the end, she agreed, but stated that A would have to get a job as she and my dad couldn't support A for the rest of her life. I'm happy to say that the guest room is now his room, and my mom is gonna let us paint it however we want this weekend. This is the happy part of the update. As many of you kindly suggested, we got a police involved. We took a picture of A's hand, but the marks were barely visible. To the person who suggested this, you were right, we should have taken a picture earlier. And for those asking why my mom and I kept cleaning it even though the one wasn't open, I'm an idiot and my mom was panicking. I won't lie and say I'm smart. I am a very dumb person, and I do dumb things under pressure. But anyways, we called the non-emergency number and my mom did most of the talking. After a while, we drove to Karen's house. It's not very big, but she has a large front yard that was full of miscellaneous items. She saw us pulling up and thought we were here to drop A off, but our escort surprised her. He had thrown some of A's things into the lawn, but it was mostly clothes and posters. I only picked up her scrapbook, and that's all I saw before she went inside. Karen said me and my mom weren't allowed on her property, so we waited in the car. I heard Karen shouting, but I didn't understand what she was saying. I wasn't inside for long, and she came out with her backpack and gym bag. Karen screamed at her to never come back and to never call her again, blah, blah, blah. We drove home with me, and it kept thanking my mom. I left out a small bit of what happened for safety concerns after asking my mom, and I cut out some of the stuff where it was just talking that didn't go anywhere. We unpacked some of A's personal items, and we're going to have an in-house spa day once my mom gets home from work. There's going to be some changes in the house, and we're going to have a house meeting once my dad gets home from his trip. Karen tried to call A's phone, but she blocked her number, and we've been going through our daily routine. We share a bathroom now, so we've been cleaning up and rearranging to make space. This is the best possible outcome, and I feel like I'm living in a dream world. I know A is upset, though, so I've been trying to cheer her up. As many of you also suggested, my mom is going to report Karen for a number of things to CPS. I'm not really involved in that part of the situation, but my mom said she would keep me updated. Thanks for all the support me and A have received. You're all wonderful people, and I hope you have an amazing day. Original post.
Entitled Stranger at a campground expects me to have a shirt for her kid to tie-dye, throws world-class tantrum when I don't. So my boyfriend and I went camping this weekend at a campground, and we met this couple and their son, maybe 7 to 11 years old. I'm bad at telling kids' ages. Well, we were setting up our tent, and they were setting up at the plot next to ours. We had some polite small talk, and we mentioned that we bought a tie-dye kit to tie-dye a couple t-shirts while we were there. It was really just a small, cheap tie-dye kit, and we both brought the shirts to make. The mother immediately got excited and said her son would love to tie-dye with us later that night. We were caught off guard, but I was sure there'd be some extra dye, and I didn't really care that much, so I said sure. A few hours of hiking and fishing go by, and then we're ready to go back and settle into our campsite, see dinner, and start making our t-shirts. We round the corner towards camp, and it was as if this kid was waiting for us. He was right at the path and then sprinted back to his campsites. Once we got closer, his mother stomped over to the trail, and this is how this conversation went. Where have you guys been? We've waited hours. We've been hiking, but he can come use it in a little bit once we set it up. I was totally caught off guard and turned off that she even approached me that way, but I blew it off again. Like, did this lady expect me to alter my plans all day to cater to her kid? We get to our campsite, and I'm about to start dinner, but this woman and her kid are just staring at us. So I decide to just get the dye ready so he can bring his stupid t-shirt over and leave us alone so we can eat in peace. I bring the dye out, and they come over to our table, empty-handed. Looks great. He's a small or a medium. Me what? I don't have anything for him to use. I thought you had your own t-shirt that you wanted to dye. No, you are the ones who brought the tie-dye kit. We waited all day for you to get back, and now you're saying you don't even have a t-shirt for him. I don't know what to tell you. We only have 4 t-shirts to make for ourselves. I can't believe you told son that he could tie-dye and got his hopes up. He waited for you all day, and he have one of yours. Yeah, absolutely not, I said while laughing. It's not funny, don't laugh at me. At that point, I'm just like, whatever, lady, and we keep snickering at her until they storm back to their campsites, where she starts playing literal death metal music full blast. It's hilarious. This chick was insane, throwing a full-blown tantrum and glaring at us from afar. An hour or so later, the ranger comes over to our tent and said he got a report that we were drinking alcohol. We were drinking alcohol, but they typically don't care unless we're disturbing other campers. And we were just 2 people sitting and eating dinner quietly. I told him what happened, and he thought it was hilarious, and I jokingly said that I'd like to make a counter-report about EM's music. He was like, hell yeah, I'll do that, and went over to her. She threw a fit when he told her to turn that shit down, and I heard her screaming about how we're partying and drinking, and how dare he confront her and not us. Eventually, her husband turned her music off while she was mid-screech, and she sulked into her tent and never came back out. And the ranger came back over to our site for a beer after dark. We considered calling her poor husband over for a beer, but decided not to poke the bear. Lol.
Check out my other excellent videos.